Hey, David Sparkwich here. Welcome back, everybody. We are moving into our next lesson. I'm going to be giving you an orientation on what I'm going to call complex vowels. Many people, when they learn Biblical Hebrew, they are told that there's only about 7 vowels to learn when there's actually, lo and behold, 17. So there's a lot more than you'd think. So some are more complicated in their construction. They don't necessarily have different sounds, but their names are different. And how they look is different. I'm going to bring up a screen, a vowel chart for you right here. As you can see on the top, the 17 Hebrew vowels. Beauty is this chart actually gives you the name of each of the vowels, both the phonetical romanization, the English lettering is known as transliteration, and then they give you the Hebrew spelling, which is super helpful for new people. You can always check the Hebrew and see if you're getting it right. Okay, we've already covered the vowels that are in the middle of the chart. These you should be familiar with. Now, during the reading practices, we've been utilizing most of these, maybe not every single one of them. So I'm just going to race through these real quick, and then we're going to get into the vowels that you are not familiar with yet. So the first one here would be the cholam. And that appears as a small dot in the upper left of pretty much any consonant can have a cholam in the upper left. Cholam says O. There are 2 types of cholam, a full and a defective. This is the defective one, so it's missing something. That's why they called it defectiva. And the cholam full, cholam malay, in Hebrew would be, it would have a vav above it. And we'll actually cover that. Actually, I could mention it just above here. That is a full cholam. And this down here is a defective cholam. Next, you have tsere, which says A, and you can say A in some cases. You've got a kametz. It's a long vowel that says A. A. Kametz, or pronouncing it kamatz, is fine, either one. So it's not like one is right and the other one is wrong. They're just different ways of saying the same thing. They're both acceptable. So whatever you're more comfortable with or that you've learned already should be fine. The next line, we've got kibbutz. It says U. Kametz chatuf says O. Did spend a little bit of time on that the fact that there is no difference in these vowels in terms of what they look like, but there is quite a bit of difference in how they sound. And determination that by you memorizing a short list of 6 or 8 words like kol and chokhmah, that whenever they come up and you see a kametz underneath them, it's a kametz chatuf, and is to be pronounced O. And that would be the best way for new students to get a handle on that without understanding the rationale behind, well, why is it different? Why does one say O and the other one says A? And we get a hirek. Some people tend to pronounce it as hirek with just an H, but it actually does have a chet. And so there is a hard sound, hirek. Next one is segol, that says eh. Finally, patach. Patach says ah, much in the same way that kamatz or kametz says ah. So you get 2 vowels that say ah. This is the A class vowel column. The E-class vowel column, you've got a tsere and a segol. And those can interchangeably they trade off. So sometimes the A says A, and a lot of times the A says A. And the segol usually says A, but occasionally can say A. And there's really no quick way for me to teach you why it's like that. And there may not even be grammatical rules behind why it's like that. It could just be as the language develops, the vernacular, how it was spoken, there were slight alterations as with all languages. That's what I believe that you may have here. Moving on to the I-class vowels, you've got hirek, calling that I-class, but it's really pronounced E. And then the O-class vowel, we've covered. You've got the defective cholam and the kametz chatuf that both say O. And then the U-class vowel or the U-class vowel, you've got just the kibbutz, which says U. So in 3 of the 5 cases, you've got 2 vowels here that have the same pronunciation, 2 vowels here that can be used many times interchangeably with very same or slightly different pronunciation. They're either going to say A or A. depending on the word. I class, you've got one vowel only, the hirik, or it's hirik or hirek, either one is fine. And then the O class vowels, we've got two that say O, two vowels that say O, and then one vowel that says U. Okay, that being said, we're going to clear the board, and I'm going to devote the rest of this session to instructing you in the more complicated vowels. I would call them more complicated because in one case they include, many of them include like more than one element. So just instead of like just one sign, one vowel marking sign, like a dot or a dash, or these have more than one, most of these. So if we begin with the A class, notice that these are called unchangeably long vowels. There's a reason why grammarians have described these as unchangeably long vowels. In Hebrew, many times when words are conjugated, when you move through the different stems, or when you add pronominal suffixes onto verbs, onto nouns, things change. Like vowels can tend to lengthen or reduce. They can get stronger, they can get weaker, depending on what is going on around that vowel. Vowels are very volatile, but when you come to the unchangeably long vowels, they are not. They're standalone fixtures that are not going to be moved, that are not going to be altered. They're trustworthy, they're dependable, and it doesn't really matter what's going on around them. And so we have, for this first vowel, this is called kamates hay. You're already familiar with the kamates. We've learned about that, but we're adding a hay. So just to be aware when you're reading words, if this is part of the vowel, it will look just like this, a kamates and a hay. And if it, actually it's a consonant, I tend to see a hirek, I'm sorry, mapik, a dot in the hay, a mapik, and that can tell you that it's more a consonant, right? So that's the kamates hay. And kamates hay says ah, just as kamates says ah. They both say ah. So there's no difference in the sound that it makes. There's just a difference in, one being long, meaning it can't be altered. This one can be altered depending on what's going on around it. This one cannot be altered. That is the primary difference. Next one is the E class column. We have tsere yod. Tsere, snake eyes, says A, but tsere yod also says A. So again, there's no difference in the sound. It's just this one can't be altered. When a word ends with this construction, it's going to be resolute. It won't change based on what's happening around it. And so if you say the word A without realizing it, there's a little Y sound in just pronouncing the tsere vowel. So this yod is capturing that or representing that Y sound, A. Okay, next E class vowel would be sigol yod. Sigol yod. Sigol yod says eh. Just as sigol says eh, sigol yod says eh. Eh. So this is actually, yod is not pronounced, even though it appears as part of this vowel is not pronounced. Eh. Okay, next one is the I class vowel. Hirek yod. Hirek yod says E, just like Hirek says E. So you see, it's really pretty simple in that they all make the exact same sound as their simplified version down below here. It's just there's another component added to each of these. So Hirek yod says E. That's also a very common suffix that'll appear on certain nouns. E, meaning my. All right, on to the O class vowels. Cholam vav. So we've already drawn your attention to this. You're already familiar with this. We had this in our reading practice so far. I've already introduced it. So cholam vav is the long form. And then we've got the shorter form, which is cholam defectiva, cholam kal, the light version, and cholam malay, the full version. So the full version has both the cholam dot and the vav, and the light version has no vav, and it has just the dot, the cholam. U class vowels, We just have a shurek. So this is shurek. Shurek says oo in the same way that kibbutz down here says oo. They both say the same exact thing. One is a long, unchangeable vowel. It can't be altered. The short vowel tends to be wishy-washy, depending on what appears around it. And that can be affected. It can actually change this vowel. But in both cases, oo and oo, they both say oo. Moving on to the last segment of the teaching today, these are the reduced vowels. I did want to say something in passing, something that stumped me for a long time. You've got these things known as long vowels, and then you've got things known as short vowels. Now, I know in English, there's a difference, like A would be long and A would be short. So you got long and short, and there's a difference in how you'd pronounce it. But in Hebrew, we have like a kametz is a long vowel, and then we've got a patach, or some would say patach, it's a short vowel. They both say ah, and there's no differentiation. So I just wanted you to know there may have been some technical reasons like why originally they called these long, and it could even be that in ancient times, you know, the sound was drawn out just a little bit more. We've lost all that. So biblical Hebrew today, biblical Hebrew studies, there is no difference in how you pronounce a long vowel or short vowel. So I want to put that to rest right at the beginning. That's was something that was a riddle to me for many, many years. I just couldn't figure it out. Like, why? Why is it long? And there's really no reason, or if there was a reason, we've lost the reason, you know? So it makes it real simple. All right, long vowels. I'm not going to go back to those. So reduced vowels. So you'll notice there's only 3 reduced vowels that we're looking at. And by reduced, it just means that there was a short vowel, and because of what was going on before the vowel, you know, what other letters or vowels were there, perhaps there was a certain pronoun that was added and it impacted the patach. And so the patach loses some of its life force because more power, more enunciative power is given to what comes before it, and it kind of steals some of the thunder that the patach used to possess. So in fact, the word chataf in Hebrew is a verb that means to steal or to snatch away. So if you picture it like this, that something's being taken away from the vitality of the patach, I would call it like the life force. Some of the life force of the patach is being drained away and given to someone else. And so it's no longer a patach. It's like it contains half of the juice that patach used to contain. But again, these are real technical things. In ancient times, these were, understand the Masoretes created this system. They were the linguistic scientists of their day. And no doubt, technically speaking, there was a ever so slight difference between the patach and chatef patach. We've lost that. So there's no longer a way that we can pronounce it, you know, just half of it. It's not a shva. If it were shva, we'd pronounce it as if it were shva. It's a reduced vowel. It's also known as a half vowel. It's also known as chatef vowel. So those are all synonyms that mean the same thing. So chatef patach, it's just a patach. It has a thing that looks just like a shva that comes to the right of it. Of course, Hebrew's read from right to left, so this thing that looks like a shva comes first. It is not a shva. It is a lookalike. If something looks like a shva and it's ever combined with some other vowel beneath one consonant, you will know it's not a shva. And so it's a half vowel. So this is pronounced chatef patach or chatef patach. And it simply says ah. It makes the same sound as patach. Okay, moving on. Next one, chatef segol. Same exact thing. I'm not going to repeat all the things I just shared with you. They all apply. And so it has the same exact sound as the traditional segol. And this is just called chatef segol. And these appear most often under guttural letters. So something about the silent letter that it likes the half vowel for whatever reason. It's a pattern in biblical Hebrew. So segol says ah, chatef segol says ah. So these are all things you want to learn. You want to get a good set of flashcards that I've already given you the information on how to secure. You should have secured those by now. and been using them. A good set of flashcards will include all 17 Hebrew vowels. They are all important. And if you only learn half of them, whenever you're confronted with the ones you don't know, you'll be confused. You won't know what it is. Even if you happen to memorize the sound of that thing, if you don't know how to refer to it, like when I meet with you for our mentoring sessions, what are you going to say? You're going to be like, oh yeah, David, that thing that looks like it's got a dot and a got a dot. There's like over 50 usages of the dot. We've got to be more specific than just the thing that has a dot or dots, right? So we've got to learn the names. It's very important. It'd be like if you didn't know your coworker's name and months went into years, it'd be pretty awkward. They say good morning to you every day and they say your name. You never say their name because you don't know what it is and you're afraid to ask again, right? So awkward. So we don't want you to feel awkward when you're reading Hebrew. We want you to know what you're looking at, know the names, know the sounds, and be able to read these effectively, and you will be an excellent reader. So that's where you are all heading. If you follow the lessons faithfully, you're heading to the realm of being an excellent reader. Okay, finally, we move on to the final vowel on the reduced vowel list, and that would be Chatef Kametz. Some people would pronounce this Chataf Kametz. Either one is perfectly fine. So either Chataf Kametz or Chatef Kametz or Chatef Kamatz. Those are all acceptable ways of saying this particular vowel. So let's draw our attention here. So I know we've covered Kametz Chatuf. It looks like a normal Kametz, but it says O instead of A. We have the same sort of thing here. When you have this combined vowel where you have what looks like a shva coupled with a kametz. This particular one is found rarely in words. You will hardly ever see it. I'm going to give you two examples, but this is an O-class vowel. So because it's an O-class vowel, that tells you something. It's got to say O. It can't say ah and be an O-class vowel. So all of the ah sounding vowels are over here in the A-class vowel. So, but I understand the confusion comes with the kametz. Like, what is it? Is it a chatef kametz or is it a kametz? And how can we tell the difference? Again, I'm going to give you the same answer I gave for the other examples. There is a short list of words. I'm going to give you just two, and I'm sure there are other words that could be added to that, but this will just give you examples, and they're words that come up rarely in the Hebrew Bible, but I wanted to at least give you a couple of examples so you can understand how this vowel works. I want to reiterate, just because this is a complex vowel, it still will have the same sound. It will have the sound of O, the sound of the kametz chatuf, and this is called chatef kametz. Has the same exact sound as O. So here's a couple of examples. Look at the Hebrew word for ship. This appears in the book of Jonah, when Jonah is running away from God's calling on his life, ends up boarding a ship down in Tarshish. This is an example here where we have a chatef kametz, which says oh. So this word would be pronounced oniya, oniya, not aniya. Why don't you try saying that? Oniya. And we have the Hebrew word for afternoon. So this word is pronounced tsahoraim. Tsahoraim. So you would say tsahoraim tovim, means good afternoon, common greeting. We'll just circle that. Chatef kametz. So again, that is pronounced O and not A. Tsahoraim tovim. So if I were you, I would just remember these two. And any other time when you're in the Hebrew text where you see these, I guess the easy thing is when you see a kametz coupled with a shva, you kind of know it has to be pronounced O. One of the easy ways of remembering this is whenever this particular complex vowel appears, though it is rare, because it is in the O-class vowel on your vowels list, it has to have the O sound always. So you'll never have to see this and say, I wonder if that has the ah sound. It never will. And if it did, there'd be something like this type of vowel that would also be in the A-class vowel on the vowels list, and there is not. And so that will make things simple for you. So that pretty much covers all of the vowels for lesson number 9, complex vowel orientation. So I'd encourage you to continue on studying your alphabet cards, your Niqqud. These are some of the 17 Niqqud. And I'm not saying that you have to have the, I know earlier in print, it says you've got to have them mastered before moving on to the 16 drills. And I will qualify that by saying you need to have a reasonably good grasp of these. It doesn't have to be perfect, but if you're 80, 90%, that is a perfect place to begin the next segment, which will be the 16 essential drills. During the 16 essential drills, we're going to be covering vowel and consonant identification on a regular basis in our consonant and vowel sprint drills. And so you'll actually get more and more accustomed to sight recognition, seeing it and telling yourself what it is and what sound it makes for all the consonants, all the vowels, including the complex vowels. And you'll be getting that on a regular basis. And so that will solidify in long-term memory the things that need to be there regarding these things that we've been studying. So hopefully that's encouraging to you. Look forward to meeting you again in the next lesson. This will be lesson number 10. We'll be covering and introducing 3 new consonants. You have a great day. Shalom, shalom.